for the best car, SUV, or truck, guess what? You're in luck. Frontier Motors is down the street. Got the best deals that can't be beat. Don't overpay, come in today. Doing business the old-fashioned way. Frontier, we got the right price. Frontier, we'll treat you mighty nice. Frontier Motors, low overhead country.
Yes, indeed. We are always pleased to have the owner of that fine company here in the studio. We call it Low Overhead Company. The real name is Frontier Motors. Mr. Ivan Streckler is prepared, ready, willing, and more than able to be able to answer any questions that you might have regarding the cost of a car, truck, or SUV. Want to get a price on it that you're thinking of buying or selling or trading in. But why not give him that call? Call us here at 478-3116. He would be happy to speak with you. Good morning, sir.
Hey, Don, thanks so much. Good introduction. I appreciate it. We're doing a double format once more for our cable viewers out there. So if you're watching this on TV, don't bother calling in. This is a pre-recorded show. If you have a question on the value of the cars, that's one of the things that we do on the show here. Call the dealership phone number, which should be racing across the bottom of your screen right now. 1370 AM radio is a live show. So if you're driving down the road right now and you're listening to this on 1370 AM radio, we've been doing the show going on 19 years now. And this is a call-in show. So if you got a question on a car, which car is a good car, bad car, but mainly, what should your car be worth on a trade-in, or what should be worth if you sold it yourself? We can help you with that. The formats we use are a little bit different than you can get. Of course, if you're going to sell your car or buy a car, you can get on the internet. And if you get on the internet, there's a couple of different formats they use. Kelley Blue Book, everybody knows what that is. And also the Edmunds and the NADA value. Now, we do use a version of the NADA value when we appraise cars. I've got it in my hands right now. And the NADA value is a little gold book. And they sell a version of this at the public library. I say not at the public library, but at Barnes and Nobles. I was there the other day, and they had them for sale for like $3. But it's a different volume than this, and I don't know why it's different. You'd think it'd be the same. The one that I use is a little bit different because it is the one that the banks and credit unions and insurance companies use. So to me, it's very important. And I had this happen today where we were selling a Buick Regal, and we had the vehicle sold for a certain price. And the customer came back and says, well, my banker says it's not worth that type of money. Well, why is that? Well, they booked it out. We were selling the vehicle for $18,000. They booked the vehicle out for $17,000. So instead of telling the customer you need to come up with $1,000, they told the customer it's not worth the money. Well, fortunately, they booked it out wrong, so we were able to. They forgot to add the options to the vehicle, so we were able to put a deal together because the banker booked the car out wrong. But we have that book value for that simple reason that if you go to your banker, we don't want to be embarrassed. We want to make sure that the book value of the vehicle is $18,000, that we can sell it for $18,000. Sometimes we can sell the vehicle quite a bit below book value, and sometimes the book is wrong and the vehicle brings a lot more than book value. An example would be an older Jeep Wrangler. If you have a 1997 Jeep Wrangler in good condition, the book might say it's worth $2,500, but on the open market, it might go for $5,000 or $6,000 on an older Wrangler because they're in big demand. But the book keeps slipping a little bit every day. So that's one of the things we bring with you to the show. And we also have the black wholesale guidebooks, and the black books are printed by Hearst Publication. We've been using these ever since I've been in the car business, which is quite a long time. I started when I was 15 years old and started selling cars when I was 18 years old. And I remember these books laying on the manager's desk. We call these the secret books. We don't want to show this to customers in the car business because it tells the customer what a vehicle might be worth as far as an appraisal would be. And I'll just open up the first page I come to is a 2013 Nissan Pathfinder. And it says that base model S has an average wholesale of $18,950 and a clean wholesale of $21,000. So that's about a $2,000 spread between average and clean. And if you had this information and the dealer is telling you it's worth $18,000, well, obviously they're hitting that vehicle a lot lower than the book value. We're not afraid to show you the book values at Frontier Motors, whether it be the black wholesale guidebook or whether it be the NADA. And the other thing we do is we give you what we call a reality value. Reality value is what we would be willing to write you a check for your car. And let's just say that you're going to buy a brand new Lexus and you're going to go over to the dealership. Lexus and Mobile is our closest Lexus dealership, and they have one a Lexus in stock that you love, and you've already negotiated your best deal, and then you have a trade-in. Well, before you go to Lexus Mobile and you're in the Pensacola area, stop by at 230 Beverly Parkway at Frontier Motors and let us assess the car for you. Let me tell you what I'll write you a check for that car. And let me also tell you that what they should give you for that car. You would think they'd give you a little bit more money for the car than I would because you're buying a car from them, not me. But you'll be surprised a lot of times at the appraisal that I'll give you might be quite a bit more than what the franchise dealership is going to give you. One reason is because they have certain vehicles they want on their lot. And if yours doesn't meet that format, they're going to give you a low appraisal because they're not excited about your car. So if you've got a little Honda Civic with a stick shift you're driving and you go into a Lexus lot, well, there's not too many people going to a Lexus lot looking for a $7,000 Honda Civic with a stick. But at our dealership, they are. The advantage of being an independent dealer is we sell all makes and models. The disadvantage of being a franchise dealership, you normally have a certain clientele walking in looking for used cars on your lot, normally the same make and model or similar to what you're selling. So if you're a Lexus dealer and you're looking for a used Lexus, where would you go? I'd call up the Lexus dealer or look on their website and say, what do you got available? But what if you're a Lexus dealership and you have a customer looking for an F-250? How many people are going to go to look for a diesel F-250 at a Lexus lot? And that's what I'm saying, folks, is get that second opinion from Frontier Motors. Whether you buy a car from us or not is immaterial. Of course, we'd love you to buy a car. And what's going to happen sometimes, while we're appraising your car for you, which takes 10 to 15 minutes maximum, you might be on the lot looking at a 2014 Lexus, and this happened the other day. It worked very well, just like what we're talking about on the internet. The customer came to us for a free appraisal. We didn't pressure them to buy a car from us. But what happened while I was appraising the car, actually one of my sales managers was appraising the car, they tripped across a 2014 Lexus ES350 with 6,000 miles on it. So what happened next is they're comparing it. And that happened 2 weeks ago. Same thing, 2014 RX 350. We sold one with like 7,000 miles on it. Customer wasn't there to buy a car. Customer was there to get the free appraisal. So it works. What happens is you come in, you find a car, and then you find out how much you can sell. Now, this worked very well a couple of weeks ago with the RX 350 because the customer already had been over to or had been conversing with the dealership in Mobile as far as the bottom line of a brand new one. So they knew what a new one was. And therefore, when we quoted them the price on the one we had was 7,000 miles on it, and it came up to be $7,000 less, it was easy for us to make a deal as long as we gave them the same trade value. Our trade value, of course, was higher. But that's what we do at Frontier Motors, and we don't pressure you to buy a car from us. And I tell my salespeople all the time, when you come in to get that free appraisal, that's what we want to do for you, is give you a free appraisal. We're not there to say, well, why would you want to buy a new car? That's stupid. If you want to buy a new car and you have the funds to buy a new car, then buy a new car. Frontier Motors would be out of business if somebody didn't buy a new car, because all we sell is used cars. Now, some of our cars that we sell have very low miles on them, as low as 400 miles. We have an Avalon on the lot right now with 480 miles on. That's about as new as you can get, but guess what? I got to sell it as used because I'm not a Toyota dealership. So, but if you want to buy the brand new car, no matter what I tell you, and I still have customers coming in and say, I want to buy a new car, I don't care how much you save me, well, we can still help you with, number one, we can tell you what to pay. And I'm not sure if you know this or not, but Consumers Reports has on the back of their Consumers Reports, they always have an ad. And the ad states that if you want to get your free invoice report, you can, for $14, they'll tell you what the new car cost is for $14. Any additional report, if you're looking at multiple cars, is an additional $12. Well, guess what, folks? I've got the new car cost guide that I subscribe to, and it tells me the invoice of just about every car out there. It might not have the invoice for a Lamborghini, but I've just opened this up to a Lincoln MKS, for example. Has a retail price of $40,425, has a dealer invoice of $34,400. So that tells me this vehicle is marked up about $2,000. So if once I find out what the rebates and incentives are, it'll help me help you get a good deal. Because if you know what the dealer cost is, I'm not saying you're going to buy it for dealer cost. The dealer wouldn't be in business very long if he sold it for what he paid for it. But I know there's little incentives and kickbacks and all that kind of stuff, and I can help you with that also as far as year-end money and things like that. But I can pretty much tell you what you should pay for that new car. Don't pay Consumers Reports. When we talk about paying, the other thing that we can help you with, if you're out there in the market for a used car, and let's say you see it on Craigslist, everybody seems to be going to Craigslist. Well, be careful, number one, on any website when you're buying from a private individual. That car might or might not be available. I've heard a lot of scams on Craigslist, but let's say you found, or let's say it's your neighbor that's got a car and you saw he slipped the for sale sign in it. Let's say they have a lot over here at the Navy base. They call it a lemon lot. I don't know how it ever got the word lemon lot. I don't know if I'd want to go to a lemon lot to buy my next car, but they have a lot at the Navy base or close by there called a lemon lot where people drop off their cars. They put a little for sale sign on them. Well, if you want a history report, Carfax is the number one provider of history reports in the nation, but it's about $40 to run a Carfax report. At Frontier Motors, for the last 5 years since we subscribed to Carfax. Before that, we had AutoCheck. Now we have both. We have Carfax and AutoCheck. And the reason we ended up getting Carfax also because a lot of people would come in and they say, well, you've got AutoCheck. Why don't you have Carfax? Well, the main reason was because AutoCheck was quite a bit less money than a Carfax. But they came out with a new program about 5 years ago where I pay one fee and I can run as many as I want. So now we've got customers that, like yourself, that are listening to this that might not need a car right now, but maybe they have a friend or relative or somebody at work that's looking to buy a car, and they say, well, I want the history report. Well, a lot of times the person selling the car, if it's a private individual, doesn't want to pay $40 for a history report when they're selling the car. They might not even want to share the history of the car with you. So at that point, you pick up the phone, call 436-8080. That's our phone number. If you're watching this on TV, you're going to be seeing it on the bottom of your screen. Call us up. If we're closed after 6 o'clock, leave a message. We'll call you back, or call us back the next day. We open up at 8:30. Our salespeople are there about 7:30 to 8. Some of them get there. And they've got the same ability that I have where they can plug it into the Carfax and run that report for free. Now, the other thing that happens when we put that ID number, we'll need the ID number. If you don't know what the ID number is, it's called the VIN number, the identification number, the car number. But it's usually on the windshield, lower left-hand corner of the windshield, and it's also on the door. And so most of the cars now also have them on every fender and every panel. I know a lot of the imports have it, and that way you'll know if that sticker's missing that the panel's been replaced. So it's one way to look to see if the vehicle has ever had any issues. You know, if the door has been changed out, you can't take that sticker off one door and stick it on another one. You'll notice right away it's been tampered with. Kind of cool the way they do that. Once you peel it off, it's done. But give me that ID number, and if you know the equipment and the miles of the car, I can plug that in. Then I can share the Carfax with you and the AutoCheck. We can run both of them. And then also, it'll pop up what the price of that vehicle should be. So if you've got a clean history report and you love the vehicle, and it says that, and my program says that this vehicle should be able to be retailed for $21,000. Well, if the individual that you're buying it from is asking retail, which is $25,000, you know that they're too much money. Because if I can get you one for $21,000, you can use that information to make sure that you buy it for $21,000. And you can tell the customer, whether it be a dealership or a private individual, say, hey, I can go to Frontier Motors and they can get me a vehicle just like this with the same miles, with the same equipment, and the same color for $21,000. So here's what you do. You either bring your price down to $21,000, or I'm going to have them find that car for me, which gets me into my locate program. Well, I should say it's our locate program at Frontier Motors. We've got 5 managers that help with locates, and all of our salespeople will take the information down. So let's say that you go back to the person that had that car for $25,000. You couldn't get them to drop the price on $21,000 for whatever reason. They want to hold out. Maybe that's what they owed on the vehicle. And that's another thing you have to be careful of. And I see a lot of ads, a private individual ad say, just want to get my payoff. Well, if they only owed $25 on the car, would you be able to buy it for $25? Of course not. If they owe $25,000 on that car and the car's worth $20,000, doesn't mean you got to give them $25,000 just because that's their payoff. That's their problem. What they owe on the car is really immaterial. And I tell our customers that also when they come in to buy a car from us, they say, well, I want to get my payoff. Well, I'm going to assess the value of the vehicle for you, and you don't even have to tell me your payoff. I don't want to know. I don't want that to cloud of my vision of what the vehicle is worth. And if it's worth $15,000, I'm going to give you $15,000, whether you owe $10,000 on it or whether you owe $25,000 on it. But of course, it's a rule of thumb. We need to take care of the payoff. But when you are giving me that ID number so I can run the Carfax for you, it also tells me what I can sell the car for. Now, isn't that great information to have if you're buying privately, individually? Because the one thing you should use Frontier Motors for is say, tell me if this is a good deal or a bad deal. We're never going to steer you wrong. I'm not going to tell you it's a bad deal if it's a good deal. I'm going to show you how I come up with the figures. So if they're selling for the auction at the auction between $18,000 and $19,000, I can buy the car at the auction, get it shipped, get it detailed, and sell that car for $21,000 and still make a profit. So I'm able to do that by looking at the auction reports. And a private individual can't do that. You have to be a car dealership to be able to get the auction reports. And the auction reports are very important because it tells me what they're currently selling for. And it'll tell me where the vehicle, and what I do is I don't look for what's for sale. I look for what just sold in the last 30 days and what did a dealer pay for it. I know what the average profit is a dealer has to make. So I'm going to use that, and I know what the average profit is that I have to make when I sell a car. I'm going to add that on. I'm going to say, here's what I can get you that car for. Now, if you found the car and your neighbor's got that car and you know the history and you know the car that he bought a car brand new, well, I wouldn't deter you from buying that car. I would just want to make sure you don't pay too much for that car. Let's say the neighbor says, I'll sell you my car for $21,000. And I tell you, thumbs up. That's a good deal. clean history report, looks like it's a one owner. Matter of fact, sometimes the Carfax even tell me if the vehicle was serviced religiously, so I can tell you and share that information with you. I can email you the Carfax. I can print it off. You can pick it up at the dealership at 230 Beverly Parkway. The second thing I can do for you, which is really a big deal, is let's say you've got a car you got to sell first. Because if you're buying a car from a private individual, they're not normally going to want to take a trade-in. They're normally going to want to just dump theirs. And most people that are selling their car, and I had a customer in this morning that had their car on Craigslist, they couldn't sell it. They already bought a new truck, and they had a truck. They said, well, I already bought my new truck, but I didn't really want to trade it in. The dealer wasn't really interested in it. I thought I'd sell it myself. Well, he had it on Craigslist for 2 months and didn't get any calls on it. So now he's at the dealership. So what we can do at that point is we can give you a buy bid on that particular vehicle. And what happens sometimes that even if it's a good deal, the next thing is, what are you going to do with that trade-in? They're not going to want it if you're buying off of Craigslist or you're buying your neighbor's car. Your neighbor's probably selling it because they already replaced the car. So, or maybe maybe they're working from home and they don't need the vehicle anymore. They're going from a 2-car family. They're doing the Dave Ramsey thing. They're trying to relieve their debt. So they're selling one of their vehicles. And at that point, you need to sell yours. Well, why don't you bring it to Frontier Motors? Let me buy that car from you. You've got the cash now to go buy the new car. And everybody's happy. I get a car from a private individual that's a local vehicle. I would rather buy from a private individual than go out of the area. And a lot of times I'm forced to. Tomorrow morning, there is an auction in Orlando. There is an auction in Pensacola, but they're going to have 500 cars. Well, the Orlando auction is going to have 4,000 cars. So what I do is I give my buyer the instructions to go down there, and then I tell him what I need. I'd rather buy it from you. There's also an auction tomorrow in Atlanta. There's also an auction. There's a smaller auction. I believe it's in Dothan. So I'm forced to go outside the area, but I really don't want to. So if you're driving that car around, and I have a customer right now selling us a 2012 Chevrolet Crew Cab Z71. Well, they tried to sell it themselves, and everybody they talk to has a vehicle they need to get rid of first. It's almost like when you're selling your house. Well, you don't want to buy that new house until yours is sold. But if you find it, what are you going to do? You can't afford them both. So that's where we come in, because we have the ability just to write you a check for that car you're driving. You're done with it, then you can buy what you want. A lot of little things that we can help you at with Frontier Motors. And folks, one of the things that I preach daily when we give car advice is watch out for the gimmicks. And the gimmicks are not just on Craigslist. The gimmicks a lot of times are just from other car dealerships that do these mailer things. I chuckle so much. Two of our employees got mailers the other day, and I'm gonna hide these mailers because I don't want you to see who the dealer is. Most of the new car dealerships are mad at me enough. I don't need them knocking on my door. If I tell them who it is, they're going to get mad at me. But one of them was Monroe Watley. If you don't know Monroe Watley, Monroe is actually he's my cousin, and he ran Albertsons for years and years, and then he went over to Winn-Dixie when Albertsons sold out to Publix. So he was the store manager there for years and years. Well, Monroe got a flyer in the mail from a local dealer and says, Monroe, we'd love to buy your 08 Ford Explorer, and we're going to give you 20% over the book value. In other words, we're going to give you 120% of book value, which comes out to $12,912, which is quite a bit for an 06 Ford Explorer. So what I did is I flipped it over, and it says that if you look at the fine print, and there's a lot of fine print on here. I'm not going to show you, folks, but there's a lot of fine print. Well, one of the things that it says, deduct 30 cents per mile. Well, I did the calculations like 18 times because it doesn't sound right, but he's got 100,000 miles on his vehicle. If you take it times 30 cents, that's $30,000. So you got to take that figure of 12,900, subtract $30,000. He'd actually have to pay them to take his vehicle. So these are what I call gimmicks, and if you fall for it, you're a fool. There's no such thing as a sale in the car business. There really isn't. Now, there are sales if you go to the mall. If you don't get there on time, if you don't get there by 7 p.m., boom, it's over with. Goes up the next day until the next sale. In the car business, there's no such thing as a sale. If I paid $20,000 for a car, and I want to sell it for $22,000, when is there going to be a sale? Now, I might adjust the price of the car if the car sits there for 4 months and nobody's even looking at it. Of course, I'm going to adjust the price of the car. But that's not really a sale. And these things that have liquidation sales, they have construction sales, they have Labor Day sales, they have Midnight Madness sales, and these are for new car dealerships. What is that? What changes? They don't get incentives from the factory to have a sale. In other words, and I've also seen the tent sale over Cordova Mall the other day. They had a tent sale. Well, you know what it costs? You got to rent a tent. You got to rent generators. You got to have the vehicles driven off the lot. All this stuff costs money. If anything, the overhead of that dealership just went up. You know, they got a multi-million-dollar building. Now they're going to have an off-site sale. It's a gimmick to stir traffic up, which is ridiculous. At Frontier Motors, we give good deals every day that we're open. We're not open Sundays, by the way. We're not open holidays like some dealerships are. And we close at 6 o'clock at night. A lot of dealerships are open until 8 or 9 o'clock. The reason we do this is because we consider our Frontier Motors a family, and we want to make sure that our salespeople and other employees spend the time with their folks, with their friends and their relatives, and that they're home at night. So we close at 6 o'clock, but it doesn't seem to deter our sales. We're still selling more cars than just about any dealership in Florida for an independent dealership. We sell between 200 and 250 cars a month, which means I've got to buy 60 to 65 cars a week. And so I'm getting the word out that if you're going to sell a car on Craigslist, on eBay, on AutoTrader, Cars.com, on the side road, at the lemon lot, I don't care where you sell it, bring it to Frontier Motors. Let me assess it for you. You might be pleasantly surprised that the value that I'll give you and the price that I'll write you a check for is not that much different than what you're asking for. This morning I praised about 30 cars. 3 of those cars, immediately, I told them I'd give them what they're asking. So 3 out of 30, I just wrote them a check. And the other ones weren't that far off. Now, some people are crazy. They're selling the cars for $4,000 over book value. That's not going to fly, of course. And some people aren't. Some people are realistic. Some people want to sell the car. They need the money. And a lot of one of the things that I do is make sure that I don't take advantage of the military. But if a military person puts their car in there and says, I'm getting deployed, I'm going to make sure that I give them a very fair value because they're serving in the military. I'm going to make sure that they're going to get extra money for that car because they're military. A lot of dealerships say they do it, but when it comes in, they'll still offer you $5,000 under value for the car. 30 days, I'd be very nervous buying a car for them. We warranty all of our cars for 90 days. If it's 15 years or newer, up to 150,000 miles on it. And even then, most of those other ones, we put at least a 1-month warranty on it. Now, a lot of our cars are in a factory warranty, so you might go to a new car dealership. If you've got a car that's 2 years old, they'll mark the warranty box because you still have factory warranty. And another cool thing to talk about factory warranty is that General Motors just came out with for this year, first time, is that from 2000, I think it started in 2014, is that they have 2 years of maintenance. Isn't that a cool deal? What a great idea from the factory to get you to go back to the new car dealership because you do the oil changes for free. So if you buy a new Chevrolet from Pete Moore or Sandy Sansing, if it's a 14 or newer, the oil changes and maintenance on that vehicle are included for at least 2 years. Now, Mercedes came out with this years ago, and BMW came out with years ago, and it goes on. Sometimes they drop it, sometimes they don't, but BMW has had that for their factory warranty for years, which is a 4-year, 50,000-mile factory warranty, which includes all maintenance, which means that they'll do the oil changes, they'll do tire rotations, filter changes, all that stuff is included, which I think is a great idea. It's a great marketing tool because it gets you to go back to the dealer for service. And what we talked about before is that why would I talk about new car dealers? Well, the reason is because if you don't buy a new car, there are not going to be any used cars. And we make a living selling used cars. I'm going to give you some of the mileage on some of the used cars that we have in inventory. And really the cool thing about our inventory is that we have a lot of cars. We probably have 150 cars that have under 30,000 miles on them. We probably have about 70 cars that have under 10,000 miles on them. And so what we're doing is we're getting the word out that if you're going to buy a new car, we are the alternative to a new car. So if you're going to buy a new car, like Dave Ramsey says, don't spend your money on a new car. Buy a car that's pre-owned. Buy one that's maybe 3 months old, 5 months old, a year old. And the depreciation will make your head spin. And some of the cars that we have in inventory that have under 10,000 miles on it, I mentioned the Avalon already with 400 miles on. We've got a Toyota Camry Hybrid, which is a great car, one of the top cars in Consumer Reports, that has 600 miles on. We have a Chevy Sonic. So if you're going to look at a new Sonic, I always tell people go to the local dealer, go to Pete Moore, go to Sandy Stansing to look at a brand new one. But why not check ours out with 799 miles on? If you're going to buy a Toyota, go to Bob Tyler Toyota. I want you to keep the money in Pensacola. But we have a RAV4 right now with 799 miles on it. So you might want to use that to compare. And one of the things that we'll do at Frontier Motors that a lot of dealerships won't do, forget about the asking price. I've had this happen already where customers said, well, your asking price is almost as much as a new car. I said, so what? I said, it's the bottom line that's going to matter. Let me give me the opportunity to give you a bottom line. Don't just look at the asking price of the vehicle. Number one, you don't know how much the markup is on the vehicle. Number two, you don't know what the fees are charged. Some of the new car dealerships charge quite a bit more fees. Allows them to advertise the car for less because they have fees. And number three, what if they hit that trade-in appraisal $3,000 less than I do? So by the time I do it, what I do is I give you one figure. Make it so easy for you. I give you one figure. That's the bottom line after taxes, doc fee, tag transfer, title fee, all that stuff. I circle the bottom line. That's the only figure you have to remember. Now, you take that figure, and let's say it's a Lexus. So we talked about the 2014 Lexus with 6,000 miles on, and you go over to Lexus Mobile with your trade-in, and you just say one thing. I want to look at this car. I want to look at this package to make like 3 different levels of equipment. You want to compare apples to apples. Ours had navigation and a power seat. I should say heated and cooled seats. So you get that package, and then you compare the price. Now, if my out-the-door figure is $26,000 with everything, and theirs is $36,000 with everything, it's a no-brainer. And I'm the first one to tell you, if it's $1,000 or $2,000 more, I'd probably buy the brand new car. I wouldn't worry about the used one if it's only $2,000 difference. I do a lot of research when I buy that car with 3,000 miles on it, 5,000 miles, that I buy it low enough that I can save you a ton of money. Because if I can't, you won't buy it from me. And I don't care if that's a Lexus, a Hyundai, a Toyota, it doesn't really matter. We sell them all. We're lucky enough to have all of these cars in inventory. Corvette Stingray with 1,400 miles on it, 2014 new body style. A 13 F-150 with 1,300 miles on it. A 14 GMC Terrain with 1,300 miles on it. 13 Nissan Cargo Van, a small one, with 1,300 miles on it. A Chevy Malibu with 1,900 miles on it. A Beetle with 1,900 miles on it. An Avenger with 2,000 miles on it. The list goes on and on and on. I think you get the drift, folks. So what we do at Frontier Motors, we have the alternative to new cars. Now, because we have 150 cars with really low miles on it that we sell between 200 and 250 a month, we take a lot of nice trade-ins that can be sold for $5,000 to $10,000. So don't think because Frontier Motors is the alternative new that I don't have any inexpensive cars. We take a lot of nice ones in trade. We're able to talk to the customers that have them, find out if they've had any bad history or good history, find out where they had to maintain. And boy, it makes it so much easier for me to say this is a good car when I've talked to the owner of the car that just traded in a couple of days ago on a really nice car with maybe 5,000 miles, and they're trading a 50,000 mile car in, which still has a lot of life left in it. So at Frontier Motors, it's so much easier to be able to buy a car and make a decision when you come to the dealership, because we're not going to force you into making a purchasing decision until you're ready. So if you want to buy the car, of course, we'd say yes, go ahead and sign up. But if you want to think about it, we're going to give you such a competitive figure to make sure that when we let you go out that door, knowing in the back of our minds, you're probably going to hit a couple dealers before you buy, that we give you such a low figure that we know you're going to come back and see Frontier Motors. So to recap, Frontier Motors, 230 Beverly Parkway. We're going on our 20th year. Next month will be our 20th year in business that we're going to. And we have about 70% of our customers are repeat and referrals, which means that we've got a really good, solid customer base that trust us, and we get a lot of nice trade-ins because of that reason. We also go out and buy cars, and we'd love to buy it from a private individual like yourself. So come to Frontier Motors for us to write a check for the car, and you're done with it. We can also do consignments, which means we help you sell the car. I'll give you a little bit more if I don't have to tie up my cash. And we do free history reports. You can also follow us on Facebook. So if you know how to do the Facebook, go to Facebook and subscribe to a YouTube channel. We've got all of our inventory on Facebook and YouTube. And and this episode will also be on YouTube within a couple of days. So again, Frontier Motors is at 230 Beverly Parkway, 436-8080. Right in the middle of Escambia County, right outside of Car City. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Auf Wiedersehen.
Frontier Motors is down the street. Got the best deals that can't be beat. Don't overpay. Come in today. Doing business the old-fashioned way. Frontier. We've got the right price. Frontier. We'll treat you mighty nice. Frontier Motors. Low overhead country.